everyone. So I am super excited to be talking with Justin Feldman today. Justin is one of my friends from years in the entrepreneurial space. We've both been working together on our entrepreneurial journey and gone through a ton of change. And it's one of those relationships that you connect with people, and even though you're not in their life every day, you're in their life. And so we started reconnecting, probably 3-4 weeks ago. And it's just been an amazing conversation. One of the things I absolutely love about Justin is his faith and how he's bringing that into everything he's doing, and his mindset just around life. So we wanted to do an interview today just talking about, one, we want to talk about Justin, who he is, and what's behind him. So Justin, with that all said, I'd love for you just introduce yourself. Who the heck are you?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you and honor you for bringing me on this podcast, live video, virtual cyberspace thing we're doing, and just appreciate you for being you. And it's kind of a testament, like you said, we just reconnected from how we knew each other. And number one, thank you for doing this. I remember just talking to you on our conversation how passionate you are and were about helping people, and it's why I think we connect so well. And it kind of our relationship really ties into my story, and just the sense of what my realization of how much we need human connection, and how important it is to connect with your fellow man, with your fellow human. Again, we weren't connected for a long time. Then we came back, and it was just a beautiful conversation. And it's just so needed in this world. And so again, just thank you for doing what you're doing. I appreciate you, and just happy to be on here. And you said what's behind me, and literally what's behind me is nature. And that's the name of my company, Natural Warrior. And basically what I do, and said simply, is I help men reconnect to the natural order through God, through God, nature, masculinity, and holistic health. I believe that as men, we're called to live in a certain way that is aligned with truth, that is aligned to the way of God and of nature. And so it's been a long journey to how I've gotten here, and you've played a role in this, the masterminds that we were in together, and just the relationships that I built. But ultimately, my life's work is really about helping our fellow man get back to truth and taking care of their physical, mental, and spiritual health, with the purpose of being able to serve their loved ones and the rest of the world at a higher level. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I do. I could talk about it for hours, but that's the short version of it. And so just, again, really appreciate it for you, and happy to be here, man.
Of course. So we have had quite the journey together. So I'd love for you to update everyone who is not you and I. How do you get into Natural Warrior? What's been your journey through life? What's that look like?
Yeah. So it all begins, as a good mentor of mine would say, it all begins in Genesis. And for me, my birth was, I had a hard road from the beginning I was born. And I was born with bilateral club feet, so my feet were sideways when I was a baby. They had to cut my tibial tendon and rotate them back into place. And so the short version of my story is, I believe God had blessed me with a lot of health issues growing up. It started with my feet, which is, interestingly enough, it's the base, it's the foundational principle of being a human. If your feet are not straight, and you can't walk, you can't ground yourself, you can't move. And I think that's a big, for me, I've realized it's a big carryover for all areas of life. If you're not able to be stable in what you're doing, then you can't be a rock and ultimately perform at your highest self in life. And so for me, I was born with bilateral club feet, had a lot of health issues growing up, physical health issues. I wore a metal back brace for over 10 years. I wore, well, I had wore metal back brace for over 10 years. And for a period of that time, it was all the time. And then towards the end, it was just at night. But I had a lot of back procedures done, lots of just different health issues, from kidney stones to appendicitis to ADD medication, where doctors were putting me on all kinds of different medications because I couldn't settle down. But my biggest kind of life breakthrough was the realization that all of these things were a byproduct of how I saw myself. And what I mean by that is I grew up with all these health ailments, but ultimately what that created in my life was a disconnection from my God-given right of empowerment, of belief in who I was. And it was just like this trickle down effect of relearning and rediscovering me. And so hopefully that makes sense. But my journey came from a lot of darkness, a lot of, I talk about the physical ailments, but what I really want to talk about are the mental health issues I went through, the times where I was in so much pain that I, was taking, every painkiller under the sun. The time where I was walking my dog and I just wanted, because I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't get out of the situation I was in, which was excruciating back pain. I remember getting on the floor one night, walking my dog on the middle of the road. It was a neighborhood, and I remember just the feeling of like the cold street on my body, and just this emotion of like, I hope I die, like I hope a car comes and hits me and runs me over. And I just shared that not to get dark, but I share it because I know that the listener and people that are listening to this must have gone through or are currently going through some real darkness, some real struggles and challenges in their life. And that was where I was at. It got to the point where like I was near suicidal. And I had a choice in that moment. Am I going to stay on the ground? Am I going to stay with my dog in my hand and just let the world take over? Or am I going to stand up? Am I going to take back control? And obviously, we know the story ends. I'm on here with you. But that was a big turning point for my life, is starting to take back control of not just my physical health, which I truly believe was a gift from God, because I couldn't see what my purpose was without going through excruciating pain, all the things I went through, and being able to take back control of my life. And so I can get into more nitty gritty on this stuff, but that led me on a deep soul journey of health and fitness. I started to really study and become passionate, like obsessively passionate about the human body. Why am I in so much pain? Why am I struggling with my feet and my back and my kidneys and these different areas of my life, problems in my life? Led to me getting my degree in exercise science, and more so just really passionate about health. It was my most important thing in life, was the physical body, and I became so passionate about it. I ultimately, as one becomes when they're passionate about something, wants to help others. So I took back control of my health. I went from doing, being able to basically do no push-ups, no pull-ups, being in pain all the time, to taking back functional control of myself, being out of pain, moving my body well, which then ultimately led to wanting to serve others. It led to the business world, which is kind of how we connected, was wanting to take these skills that I had, I grown in myself, and serving other people, and learning how to do that. And so I got into the business world. I started working with my original company was called Wealthy Body. Started working with a lot of entrepreneurs and just different men who wanted to get in shape, who wanted to be healthier, fitter human beings. And that was in and of its own right a hard path, a dark path, because I started to realize how challenging the business world is, how challenging the entrepreneurial world is. And so inside of that journey, I learned I had to, I had to pick up new skills. Like at one point I had to let my business go, and I was just a copywriter, and I was doing email marketing. And that ultimately led to understanding the burnout struggle that so many people go through as entrepreneurs, the the working countless hours, the sleep when I'm dead, grind till I die mentality. And I found myself in that world, trying to make as much money and do as much as I can every single day, the peak performance world in a sense. And that led to a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. Number one, it brought back a lot of health issues for me, which that was what I wanted to coach people on. But I ultimately realized that it was an unsustainable way of living, and uh, I began to idolize a lot of things like money, like cars. I never like been a huge car guy, but just basically the idea of freedom, the idea of status, and I started working with a lot of men who had the same ideology. And what I found was I could help a man transform their body, but I couldn't help a man keep the transformation because a lot of times it came from the wrong heart posture. And so I say all this stuff because it's been a beautiful journey of self-discovery, of discovering of humans. And to the person that's listening to this, my biggest advice and takeaway is gather yourself closer and closer to truth, because the closer I got to truth, the more I realized that health and fitness cannot and should never be about the vanity. It's about the bigger picture. Natural warrior is about fighting for the natural order of things. And when we start to use our body as a beacon of light for our business endeavors, and we start to use our body as a beacon of light for our relationships, people around us, we start to use our health and our body as a vehicle for God's purpose for us. That's when transformation started happening. And so all that came from my own journey, working with a lot of mentors, starting in the entrepreneurial space and getting a lot out of that, but then ultimately getting closer to God and getting closer to deep spiritual mentors that helped show me that there's a path that isn't the popular path, that isn't revolving around money and status, but more so about helping our fellow man and helping our fellow woman and helping our fellow beings. And that came from spending a lot of time out in the wilderness. I just spent 3 weeks out in nature, and getting a good idea as to asking the bigger question of what is the natural order? What is the natural order that God created for us? And I'm still discovering that. That's the beautiful thing about natural warriors. I'm still learning. I'm still discovering. I'm not the guru. There's so many gurus and coaches, and I am a coach. I am a mentor, but I'm still discovering what a natural warrior is as I spend more time out in the wilderness, as I spend more time in mass and with God, as I spend more time with myself, learning my body, learning my mind. And so I could spend hours talking about this, but ultimately natural warrior came on the back of just curiosity and walking around with a metaphorical hammer, trying to break everything, and watching it as the health and fitness mentality and the entrepreneurial mentality and all these different mindsets just kind of crack under pressure as life got hard, and realizing that there is a natural order. And the way of the natural warrior is this ideology that came to me while I was in the mountains one day is, and this is the last thing I'll say, is the further we get to the natural order of life, the more we unnecessarily suffer. The further we get from the natural order of life, the more we unnecessarily suffer. Meaning, there is a natural order, and we're going to suffer. Unnecessarily suffering is the key word. We're called to suffer, right? Jesus set the path for us. He walked up a mountain with a cross, getting beaten and whipped with a thorn crown on his head. He showed us that the pathway. But it's we can get into this more, but it's very difficult for people to swallow that. It's difficult for me to swallow my whole life. But ultimately, as men specifically, there's a big problem in the world. We lack strong men, and we're called to suffer. But we're called to suffer for a rightful cause, and that's kind of what Natural Warrior came out of. Is it holistic health? Yes. Is it personal development and life coaching? Yes. But it's more so. It's about for me, it's helping myself and other men around the world, as Matthew 5 says, becoming the light of the world, so that we can ultimately serve our fellow man, our fellow beings, our fellow world, our Earth Mother, and all that is in between.
I love that. So there's so many pieces of gold you just said. One of the things that resonates with me deeply is that we are called to struggle.
Mm.
Life is not supposed to be easy. And I think our society has conditioned us that we need to have this easy life. We need to have this easy experience where we get everything we want. But in reality, that is not life. Life is about growth. And on our journeys, I read a devotional every day. It's called I Hear His Whispers. It's amazing. And then I actually share my thoughts and read it out loud for as part of what I do for content, because I believe in sharing what's inside my soul. And today's devotional, I'll just read you the title, is Experience Peace in Your Trials, because God is peace. And when it comes to life, when it comes to everything that's going on with life, there is so many different aspects that we need to be aware of, that we need to be looking at. And the biggest one is that it's not going to be easy, because you don't know where you need to be when you need to be there. And you don't know God's plan, right? I believe if you believe in God and you believe he has a plan for you, your struggles are part of that plan. That's how he teaches us. That's how he programs us. And so it is really it's interesting when you look at it from that mindset, from that frame, where it's like these struggles are gifts. It's created who we are.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, there's so much I could riff on with that. I heard a quote. It was like, God delivers us. God often delivers us unexpected gifts in unexpected packages. And the point of that is ultimately everything, like you said, everything is a gift. Everything is there for us, because if you believe there is God, like you said, and if you believe that everything has a purpose, well, then everything is there to serve us, even if in the moment it feels like it isn't. Even in the moment, if it feels like it's here to break you, well, it is. It's here to break you, right? It's here. That is the way of Christ. It is here to break you so that you can die, literally die to your old self, die to the man that you used to be, and resurrect as a better version of you. That's the path. It's simple, right? It's not easy to swallow, though. It's very scandalizing. Like, oh, die. I have to die. I have to give up on myself, or I need to just give up everything I created. It's like the archetype of the Pharaoh. It's the Pharaoh archetype in Moses, where Pharaoh, he wanted the power. He wanted the control. Moses goes to him and says, "Let my people go," and he's like, "No, I'm not just going to let your people go. I'm going to now make them work harder and make them do more." And then the plagues start coming in, right? Those plagues are the unexpected gifts and unexpected packages that so many of us entrepreneurs and men, I'm speaking to men who I work with, but really anybody who's listening to this, we get those packages, which are just signs to okay, like this may not, like, maybe I need to shift something here. Maybe the course is in the right direction. Maybe, just maybe, I'm trying to control too much. I'm trying to have too much power. I'm trying to be a tyrant king. And maybe it's time to have humility. Like, for example, for me, one of my biggest challenges in life was always being injured and having health issues. One of my most recent ones is I had a kidney stone. This is a crazy story that we talked about, but I being a health coach, you kind of for me, I put myself on this pedestal of like, oh, I'm this health coach. I know everything about the body and nutrition. I'm so good at what I do. And then I start Lent. I go through Lent and I, praying every day. And my big prayer was, God, teach me how to love more. Teach me how to love more. That's a dangerous prayer. And I asked that prayer, and next thing I know, a few weeks later, I'm in the hospital waiting room, screaming on my knees with a kidney stone. They say kidney stones are more excruciating than childbirth. Just screaming. Um, he brought me to my knees. My body brought me to my knees, but it was something I prayed for. And ultimately, the long story short of that is I realized that the kidney stone was a way of, I asked God, show me how to love more. Well, my father was going through some really serious health issues. And me being the tyrant pharaoh in this example was like, I'd be on the phone with him and be like, Dad, you need to do this, you need to do that. This will fix you. This will fix you. Trying to control what he did to help him instead of just having empathy and compassion and love for him and just being there for him. And it took me, I remember after I got back from the hospital the next morning, I'm walking in the bathroom, and I know you said, like, I'm just going to be straight here, straightforward. I was taking a piss, and like, it hurt. And I remember looking in the mirror at myself and had this revelation of like, wow, like I just went through this because, like, imagine what my father's been going through for weeks and weeks and months. And I had this realization of, oh my God, I haven't been giving him empathy and compassion. I haven't been giving him love. And so I just share that because, again, I believe that we all go through this suffering, these challenges. It's part of the process. But too many of us don't look at the lessons and the teachings and just stay on the chair because it feels good. It feels powerful, it feels safe. I get to control, I get to do. But there's something that's very scary about, like, I'm going to release the power. Because that puts you in the desert. It puts you, with Moses and the Hebrews in 40 years of desert. That's scary. That's scandalizing. But, there's also a freedom to that of like, you know what, I'm just going to surrender and do what's best, not for myself, but for the greater good.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing that story, because it's such a good example.
Yeah.
Like, when you ask God for something, in the Bible, he talks about making us fishers of men, right? He never teaches us or gives us what we want. What he does is gives us the opportunity to learn to get what we want, to learn to go out and be a better person, be more empathetic, be more loving. Like, one of the things you got to be really careful about, praying for patience, right? Patience is one of those things. When you pray for it, he will give you opportunities to learn to be patient.
Yep.
And it's never, usually when you're praying for something, you're wanting it now.
Yep.
He's never going to give it to you now. He's going to give you the lessons to accomplish that in the future. And that's my belief when it comes to how does God take care of us? How do we use his word in our lives?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I shifted. It was a very recent rebrand, actually, shifted from Wealthy Warrior to Natural Warrior. That is what it's all about. It is he will give us not what we want, but what we need. And many times what we need isn't a bunch of money, isn't a bunch of sex, isn't a bunch of dopamine hits from social media, from all the different vices I can get into. It's like, this is just unfiltered. So, the porn and the drugs and the alcohol and all these things that we think we need, right? He gives us, and those are really just coping mechanisms that us as humans choose to do to avoid the receivership of what we're being given, which is what we need. We pray for what we want. God, give me a better job, give me more money, give me like, almost like I had my mentor and soul brother George. He would always say to me, it's like, God is not a genie. He's not going to grant your every wish. What he will do is you pray for something, he'll put the great algorithm will put things together so you'll get it. But it's for the greater good, right? And so many times when I prayed for one thing, I get what I asked for, but it wasn't nearly what it looked like in my mind as I was praying for it. And so I think
Right.
that's the key differentiator is realizing that when all of us pray for these things, it's going to create it. I found in my life it creates so much struggle and creates it's a challenge to fight. That's what's called natural warriors. Is that you know George once said to me, which is such a beautiful quote. He said, "What looks like life is often death, and what looks like
Mm,
death often is death, because you have to die to your old self to step into the new. But what looks like life is often death, and what looks like death is often life." Said simply, and so it's easy to fall for the traps of life, the things
yeah.
that look like life are actually death. You know, the money, the cars, the women, the food, all these things that feel good. But it takes a real warrior, in my eyes, to say enough is enough. Yes, I'm gonna have some short term pleasure, but as the Native Americans say, it's a great quote of if what I'm doing does not benefit, if what you're doing does not benefit 7 generations after you, well then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Really, it's not probably. You shouldn't be doing it. And so that's where the natural warrior comes in. Is the Bible? One of my favorite verses from the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13. When I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I let go of childish things. And so that's
Mm,
ultimately my point is the warrior, the natural warrior, puts away the child wants, the I, the me, the egotistical enjoyments out of life, and is willing to still have joy, but find it in the suffering, find it in the head-on attack, if you will, of the hardship that is destined to come when you pray for a
yes.
better life. Because if you were just given, it's like the lottery. And one last analogy I give is like the lottery. It's like I think it's like 93% of lottery winners are broke within 6 months or something like that of getting all that money. It's because they didn't earn it. They didn't work to get it. They just got in a sense got lucky, which like you
Right.
call that a pain teacher in and of itself as well. A
Right.
gift from God. Get all this money and then lose it. Well, that's gonna teach you some things.
It certainly will. And it's such a great point that we as people need to be ready to receive.
Mm,
And if we receive before we're ready, we squander the opportunity.
yeah.
Like I firmly believe I am on a path to being a tool for God, on a path that he has set me on. And I firmly believe everything I'm doing will work, but I also believe I'm not ready to receive it yet
Mm,
because I haven't received it yet.
mm,
I don't know yet. I don't know ultimately how he wants to use me.
mm,
And that's why, to me, right now, the most important thing I do is wake up every day and say, how can I love on another human today?
mm,
How can I support another human today? That's why I do these interviews,
yeah.
is because I hope my audience falls in love with Justin.
Mm,
And I hope they say, you know what? I want to talk to Justin. I want to follow him and learn from him because that's going to help them and it's going to help my friend Justin.
yeah.
Like, this is how I love on people, is sharing what I believe God has given me.
Mm,
And I think that's the beauty of life, is that we can share. We can
yeah.
share anything and everything we have.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. And it just reminds me of like the main purpose of the Bible and like really any religion is, Jesus said it's really simple. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your might, something like that. Basically love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, the God
Yes.
part's easy. He's this invisible entity that nobody can see, hear, or you can feel, obviously, but that part's easy. I love God. But what isn't so easy is the loving of your neighbor, because your neighbor is a spitting image of all the shortcomings and negative piece aspects of yourself. And so I just hear what you said. It's like, it's such a beautiful statement. Is I'm going to wake up and I'm going to love on someone. I'm going to give that, like, that's the commandments, right? Love the creator and love the creation of the creator. And so, like,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's so simple. It's almost, it's comical how simple it is in my eyes. Our mission is simple as humans, is to steward what we have in front of us. It's
Yeah.
like you said, you have this purpose that you're being used for, and you don't know the big picture of it yet. But your goal, like when you wake up, is to love on people. Well, that's the whole thing in my eyes, at least. It's, we need to love on people. We need to share the love, because it's the stewardship of his creation. It's stewarding the people and the natural, the plants, the animals, which I can go on a whole tangent on, like how we're destroying the earth right now. Um, but ultimately, I think that's, like, if you don't have a mission, or if you're not, if anyone, including myself, this is talking to me as well, is struggling to know, like, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? Why am I here? Well, I think it's a great question, and it's something that you get to we all get to continue search for. But ultimately, an even better question is, what do I have right now? What's already been given to me, and how can I take care of that and steward that? Because I heard a quote, I forget who said this to me, but the quote goes, "Why would God gift you with anything more if you aren't willing to have gratitude for what you already have?" It's just like,
Amen.
I'm like,
Yeah.
because when we start to steward and appreciate the people, and this, again, scandalizing, but this is the challenges. This is not just stewarding. Oh, I've got this laptop and I have all these great things in my life. I just said laptop is in front of me, but I also have the challenge of, I've got lower back pain, or I've got relationship problems, or I have, you know, I'm struggling significantly financially, whatever the challenge is. Those need to be stewarded as well. And if we can go into all of those with that same mentality, man, I think you're onto something with what with what you're sharing. If you don't have a purpose and a mission, or you're struggling to reveal it, well, then, there's two options. You can choose the path of death, which is just victimizing and woe is me, or you can choose the path of life, which is just, giving love to those who need it. Again, Jesus said it best. He was getting crucified. Forgive them, Father, for they don't know any better. It's like he had love for them as he was getting about to get, as he was getting murdered in front of everyone. Right.
Right.
That's the ultimate masculine in my eyes, is being willing to, like what you just said, love on people and care for what you have, versus having to always prove yourself, in a sense.
Right. Exactly. And I love how you said that, because how many people don't know? So here is, I talk about time a lot,
Mm,
because we all share the same time.
right.
Since the last time we talked, time has passed in your world and in my world.
Mm,
And I have no idea what's changed in your world
mm,
unless you tell me. And you're
mm.
someone I talk to. Now
Yeah.
imagine someone you don't talk to. We are such a small blip in anyone else's life,
Mm,
uh, besides maybe your spouse or your kids, right? You're a bigger blip in their life. But besides that, we are so insignificant to what everyone else has going on. If you think you are more important than what they're thinking about or going through, I believe you're setting yourself up for a life of pain,
yeah.
because you're just not,
Mm,
right? Like,
yeah.
we're all busy. We
Yeah.
all have plenty of stuff to do. Mm, right? Justin, if I offered you an extra day a week, an extra 24 hours, would you take it?
Of course.
I can't offer that, right?
Yep.
Like, we just can't. We all share the same time, and no one speeds it up, no one slows it down, no one can go back and change it. And so when people do or say things to you that hurt your feelings or anything like that, I think it's important to remember they're the one who's hurt.
Mm.
Like, that's when I get trolls on my content, a lot of people are like, how do you handle that? And I realize they probably didn't even watch the content, and they're hurting,
Mm.
and they're looking for someone to take it out on. I would rather them take it out on me than someone who doesn't have that mentality and is going to get that comment and they're going to cry about it.
Yeah.
Right? Just how can I be have you heard of the term a sin eater?
No, a sin eater.
A sin eater.
Okay.
So this is from, I believe, everything I'm about to say, take with a grain of salt. Uh, I believe it's from the Roman Catholic Empire back in the 1400s, 1300s. They wealthy people would hire people to atone for their own sins, and they would call them a sin eater.
Mm.
And so I can sin, and then I pay you to
Mm.
go take the blame for that sin.
Mm.
And so I want to be the sin eater for these other people
Mm.
because I can take that blame. I can take that pain.
Mm.
And to me, it's a way for me to start a relationship. Like, if
Mm.
someone comes at me and says, Justin, you're ugly and you sound like a child, it's like, great. Why do you say that? Right? Let's start a conversation around it instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, someone I don't know who's never met me and just heard me on the internet thinks I'm ugly.
Mm.
Right? It's just a different way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Man, there's so much I could say on that. It's such a beautiful point, and you know, I don't want to sound like I'm taking shots, but I'll just say it how it is. It's we've softened. It's so interesting. The reason why it's called natural warrior is there's a natural way of living, and I believe that the modern world is kind of a flip flop of that. And so, like what you're saying here is so powerful because a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're just gonna sit back and you're gonna take it. You're gonna take the pain." Like that guy said, he called you a bad name. He said that that you're this, you're that. But that's the divine masculine. The divine masculine says the divine masculine doesn't need to defend himself, right? That's not true love. As men, we're called to love. As humans, we're called to love, and the way we respond to that is with love. Is not no, but yeah, I might be this, but you're that. No, that's
Yeah.
not the divine masculine. That is an attack and defend mentality, which is you know, which has led to wars. We've seen how that plays out. And so what you're saying is so powerful because it is ultimately it's picking up your cross and being willing to suffer for a rightful cause, being willing to take away the sins of the world, take away the pain from others, and just ultimately getting away from religion and spirituality. It's just taking responsibility, taking ownership, um,
Yeah.
for your shortcomings. If someone else is calling you out, well then that means that they've either done that before. They have everyone. We're imperfect humans, and so um, it's just I believe it's our job as men to shoulder that and to call a spade a spade. We've gotten soft. We've gotten away from that. Too many men are so worried about proving themselves through their accolades, through their money, through their um, and again, nothing wrong with those things. They're just not the highest good. The highest good is serving our creator and serving our fellow beings. And that unfortunately and fortunately means that we have to suffer, and we're called to suffer. And that's a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, man, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more.
I love that. So, hey, this has been a ton of fun connecting on belief system.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to think of how do we tie this all together. And at the end of the day, no matter what you train, no matter what you do, it all comes down to what you believe. Like everything. And so that's one of the reasons I love following you, Justin, is because it's what you believe and you live it. Right? There's your belief system, and then there's what you actually do because of that belief system. Right? If you're not willing to share your belief system, to me, that's a problem. And you are very willing to share what you believe, which I think that's one of the ways you stand up and you show love is by not being afraid. There are 3 things that we are, as a society, are not supposed to talk about. Can you guess what they are?
Politics, the news, religion. Or is it politics, religion? What's is it the news or is it something else?
Money.
Money. There we go.
The third one's money.
I guess the news we do talk about. For me, I guess I threw in one of my own values into that.
Right. But we as a society are conditioned not to talk politics, not to talk religion, and not to talk about money. Like, period. Because if we talk about it, we make up our own thoughts and opinions. If we don't, someone else can program us to believe and think the way they want us to think. And that's why I'm so honored that we spent this whole interview talking religion. Like if you go back and watch this interview, that's really what we've talked about. We haven't talked about business, which that's great, right? Because those 3 things I believe are the foundation to any business. Like everything is involved in politics, everything's involved in religion, and everything's involved in money. And it's that mindset of how do we go out there and use our belief system and stand behind it.
I couldn't agree more. And that is the core of being a human, is being able to speak our truth. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell by this interview, but I'm not even Christian. I have a Jewish background. I'm a truth seeker. That's what I consider myself, is just a truth seeker, and being willing to learn and understand truth. And I think that is an incredible point. And it really comes down to one of my mentors, Paul Chek, once said, belief, if you're not willing to challenge your own beliefs, then they aren't worth having in the first place.
Yeah. That's good.
It's good, right?
Good.
Because there's a truth ladder, right? And we're all climbing in the truth ladders of life. And one more quote, Tony Robbins once said, if a human being's biggest regret is climbing the staircase that is the purpose of their life, getting to the very top and realizing they're on the wrong staircase, right?
Right.
and so we're all on this truth ladder, and that's okay. I've realized we're never gonna get to the top, but I'm gonna do my best to get as high as I can before my time comes. And that's the thing, is being able to talk about this stuff. This is where I am on my truth ladder. How is your journey on your truth ladder going? And just being able to communicate that. But a human being's biggest regret, a man's biggest regret, or not regret, a man's biggest liability is to stop climbing, is to say, I've got it all figured out. I've got to the very top. I know everything and anything, and your belief system is wrong. You are wrong. I am right. I've got to the top. Well, that makes you God. So that already in itself isn't valid. And so I think having humility is being willing to be humiliated,
Yeah.
and that's the whole. That's the truth ladder. Is every rung you climb, every piece of ladder you climb, new truth is revealed. But unfortunately, when new truth is revealed, sometimes your old belief systems need to die. And
Yes.
that can be humiliating because that might have been what we all have lived with our entire life, and that can be quite humiliating to know. Well, maybe what I lived with wasn't the full truth, and that's difficult. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, then I learn from you when we talk, and you learn from me, and we learn from each other, and as humans we need each other. The Bible says iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. We need to be able to pour our own beliefs into the cup, and really, at the end of the day, you got to sleep on your pillow, I got to sleep on my pillow, and only you know what it feels like truth to you, and only I know what is truth to me. And so I think that the fear that so many people have is that they're scared that they're going to have to give up the power of their belief, because you know the worst case scenario is that maybe they were wrong. But I
Right.
see that as beautiful, because the more I can be wrong, the closer I can get to
Right.
right.
Exactly. And life is a journey we're all on,
Mm.
and we're all on it together. And I think the idea of right and wrong is actually the wrong idea.
Mm.
I think the real idea is what what I believe working,
Mm.
or is it not working?
Mm.
Because while change is hard, I think the ability to change and speed at which you can change is the most powerful asset anyone in the world can cultivate,
Mm.
because life is change. And the to think so let's pretend there's 8 billion people on this planet, right?
Mm.
Give or take 100 million. So if there's 8 billion people, Justin, how many can you control?
Besides myself, nobody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and then to think somehow you are smarter than everyone else who's ever lived, to think that I'm 37 years old, to think that someone out there who's 60 is not smarter than me is asinine,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
100%. Maybe it's in different areas, but everyone on this planet is smarter than me in areas. It's
Mm.
just a fact.
Yeah.
And I'm smarter than everyone else in areas.
Yeah.
But we all need each other to be successful.
Mm.
And that's, I think, one of the things our nation is going through right now is a revitalization around this idea that not one person knows it all, and not one person can do it all. It takes every single one of us.
Yeah.
It takes all of us walking down the street and picking up that piece of garbage,
Mm.
holding it until you find a trash can and throwing it away.
Mm.
You just made a difference. Not a big one, but could you imagine if 8 billion people did that once a year? We can clean up our own mess.
Yeah.
We just have to want to,
Mm.
right?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah, that's why I'm so inspired why I'm out here, and why I love nature so much, is that it is this pure creation, and again, we're given that it's something we're meant to steward. And that, yeah, what you just said, they've actually done studies on that, and they've shown that when one person picks up a piece of trash at one of our retreats, masterminds, we all walked around, me and 6 other men walked around the neighborhood and started picking up trash. Great growth exercise. And people around the neighborhood were just like smiling, and everyone was so happy. Like, it's not fun to pick up trash, but it is rewarding, right? And
Yes.
so they've done studies on this where one person picks up a piece of trash, that there's more like other people are more likely to then begin picking up trash. The energetics of me picking up the trash will then make it more likely that one other person around me will pick up trash too. And so what you're talking about is one of my nature mentors would call it a concentric ring. You throw a pebble into the water, and all of a sudden a ring is formed. And really the question is how far does that ring go out? Well, it doesn't stop. It continues to expand, and we can't even as humans quantify how much it expands. But ultimately, do we want our pebble that we throw into the ocean of life to benefit the world or destroy the world? And that's up to us. That's where we get to take responsibility, because when we take responsibility, then other people are going to follow that. When we become leaders in our own right, other people not only become followers, but then they get inspired to become leaders. And this big ripple effect that I think you're right. Like our world needs that. We don't need to idolize a bunch of other people, but we need to start taking back empowerment of ourselves for a bigger picture. And so we can all come into unity, instead of attacking each other and fighting with each other. And it's just like one more thing that I love that you said is how quickly can we change? How quickly can we change? Because the faster we can take back control of ourselves. And I have a great quote that I love. I know I'm quoting a bunch of people right now, but it goes, how quickly can you get over yourself? Right? That's the shift from child to man, child to woman. How quickly can you get over yourself and do the right
Yeah.
thing for others, do the right thing for the world? The faster I can get over myself and the woe is me, and I lost this deal, and I'm running out of money, and I'm not the fitness goal I want to be at, whatever the million reasons why I've struggled in my life to get over myself. The faster I can just get over myself and get out of my feelings as a child and just step back into being in the divine masculine of taking control, or not taking control, but taking care of my loved ones, the people around me, then I can get back to what is real. It's like Albert Einstein, you can never solve a problem in the same state in which the problem occurred. And so our mission as humans is let's raise our consciousness, raise our vibration. Let's operate in a way of in a way of purpose, in a way of love and joy and peace, not of fear and shame and guilt and anger. Like, that doesn't heal the world. That just destroys it faster.
Right. It's so true. And then have you ever watched a still pond when it rains?
Yeah. Yes, and I would love to hear your analogy.
So you were talking about concentric circles, right?
Yeah.
That ripple effect. What if every single one of us is a raindrop and the world is a still pond? You can make a difference. And it's a little difference, but all of us make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so, hey, just as we're wrapping up, I want to challenge you, Justin, me, Justin. I love that we're both Justin. And all of our listeners. What raindrop are you? What impact are you spreading? Because that matters. And it matters a lot. If you walk around and you're angry and upset and yelling at people, you're still that raindrop. But what impact is it spreading? Have you ever had someone ruin your day and then you go and ruin someone else's day?
Absolutely. More times I like to admit.
You and me both, right? So I'm going to give you the last word, Justin. But that's my closing statement is own the raindrop.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the only thing I'd like to add is you mentioned earlier you don't really like good and bad, right? Like, or that's not the best question to ask, because good and bad in and of itself dictates that it's a child mentality, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we're kids, we get put in timeout because I was a bad boy, bad girl. Oh, I get praised because I'm good. I think that it's the wrong mentality, because you're talking about how we're all drops, we're all raindrops in the still pond of life. And so I think the question becomes, you said, what raindrop are we going to be? And ultimately that's where the natural order comes in. It's there's no good or bad. There is what's aligned to the highest truth. If we can just keep coming back to our highest truth that doesn't just impact ourselves, which I call the I, but also impacts our we, which is all of your loved ones, all the people in your life, and then ultimately to the all, which is the rest of the world, all of humanity, the plants, the animals, everything, the solar system, everything that you can keep expanding. If we can just attach ourselves just a little bit higher, right? Like in the Bible, mustard seed more of faith, of truth, just a little bit closer to that, then we don't need to be perfect. Like that's the trap is we think we need to be perfect right now, and if we're not, like screw it all, I'm done. It's like, no, we just need to be a little bit closer to the truth ladder, a little bit more aligned with our truth, and just that little difference of ourselves makes the raindrop a little bit healthier, a little bit less toxic. And so that's what I would invite the listeners as well is to really meditate on this and ask yourself, is my raindrop aligned to my highest truth? Is my actions, my words, my feelings, what I'm doing and being, experiencing, is that aligned to my highest truth? Or do I have belief systems on one side of the coin, but I have actions that aren't aligned? And if you're the latter and you are unaligned, beautiful. Don't spend time getting mad at yourself or others. Just slowly start to bring it in. I think that's the meaning of life right there. If we can do that, we can save the world. We can save each other. We can save everyone.
I love that. So, Justin, this is my friend Justin Feldman. He is the Natural Warrior founder and CEO. And if someone wanted to get a hold of you, wanted to follow you, where would they find you?
Yeah, you could just check me out on social media. I'm just Justin Feldman on Facebook. I think it's Justin Feldman Personal is the link, and then Instagram is probably the best way at at the Natural Warrior. So at the Natural Warrior on Instagram, and yeah, that's the best way. If you have any questions for me, just shoot me a message on there, and I'll definitely support you the best I can. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's the best way. We're doing a little rebrand right now, so Instagram would be the best way to get a hold of me.
perfect. So, with that said, I know Justin personally. He is an amazing man, an amazing human. He will help you out if there's anything he can do for you. So, I want to encourage you, if health and fitness is something you've been thinking about and looking at, the most important step is the foundation of your mentality.
Hmm.
And if you like the mentality that Justin operates under, I want to encourage you to reach out to him. He has a heart of gold, and he has a rock solid mentality around how do I serve. So, with that, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. It has been a ton of fun. I am Justin with Life with Justin Stevens. This is my blog podcast show that I use to support other human beings who are raindrops on this pond of life. So, with that, have a great day. If you've liked this message, like it,